Welcome to today's webinar entitled Energy Information System that Pays for Itself. My name is Billy Zadig, Manager Special Programs for APA. Just a couple of housekeeping items before we get started. The webinar recording will be posted to the APA website later this afternoon. Please visit the APA website for archived webinars that are available to everyone for continuing education credits recognized by local, state, and federal professional entities. Professional continuing education and AIA CLUs are being offered for today's program. If you are an AIA professional, please send an email to me at Billie, B-I-L-L-I-E, @APA.org, along with your AIA membership number if you've not done so in the past. Those who indicated they wanted their certificate at registration and meet the requirements will receive certificates later this afternoon. All attendees are in listen-only mode. Please type your questions in the chat box and they will be answered in the order they are received. If we run out of time and we still have questions, responses will be sent directly to the person asking the question by one of our presenters. If you're just calling in, make sure you send me an email at billie@apa.org so I can send you a certificate if you requested one. The system will only recognize you if you log in. At this time, it's my pleasure to turn this over to Lalit Agarwal. Lalit, take it away.
Thank you so much, Billy. Welcome everyone. My name is Lalit Agarwal. I'm the VP of Energy Management and Sustainability at EnergyCap. Thank you for tuning into our webinar today on Energy Information System that pays for itself. I'm very happy to share that we had over 300 registrations today, and many of them are on the line. It's very awesome to see so much interest in this topic. We also have two guests on our call today, very special guests for personally me from University of Nebraska-Lincoln, because in addition to being guests today, they are very good friends and former colleagues of mine. We've worked together for more than 2 decades at University of Nebraska, and I'll let them introduce themselves in a few minutes here. So as Billy pointed out, the webinar is being recorded, so it will be available later today. And for question and answers, please submit them in the chat window, and we'll try to do our best to answer as much as possible. Now, without further ado, let me kick it off. So Ben and Kirk, maybe starting with Kirk first, would you like to please introduce yourself for our audience? Just share with us how long you've worked at the university, what your current roles are, and if you had previous roles in the past. Kirk?
Hi, I'm Kirk Conger. I'm the lead engineer at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. I've been here 22 years in that role. I came to the university from the State Energy Office, where I developed and delivered energy conservation programs. And I actually got into the field in 1979 as an energy auditor as a college senior. My group has contributed to 40% reduction in the university's energy use, and right now we are the lowest energy use index of any of our Big Ten peers. We do have building meters, utility meters in every single building. We collect these minute by minute, or in some cases monthly. In almost every case, an hourly total. And that's an awful lot of data, and we managed it poorly for very many years. And that led to a lot of pain. And so I'm glad to be able to talk about how some of those problems were solved. I think that I probably benefited the most of anybody from this new energy information system.
Thank you, Kirk. Ben?
Yeah, so I'm Ben Mayeux. I'm the Director of Accounting for the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. I've been in that role for just about 4 months now. So prior to that, I was the Business Manager for Facilities for about 10 years. So I was very involved with energy and utility reporting and processing for several years. So, and I've also been a CPA for almost 25 years. And I might disagree with Kirk because I think I might have benefited the most from our current energy system, but we can arm wrestle about that later.
Sounds good. We might have to do that one of these days. So yeah, thank you for introducing yourself, this is going to be an interesting conversation over the next 45-50 minutes, because even though I'm wearing a different logo T-shirt now, for the last 2 decades, I worked side by side with Kirk and Ben both. And some of the information that we're going to share today, I'm very familiar with, because we lived through the challenge together and we celebrated the solution together. So we're going to run through a little bit of information through slides, and then we're going to come back and have a more intimate conversation. So with that, I will start down the path of going through the slide deck here. So first of all, as Billy pointed out, this is an AIA continuing education accredited course, and you would get a certificate for participating today. At a very high level, we are going to first delineate what is an energy information system, what are the challenges that a system like this solves for you, a little bit of a background story of University of Nebraska-Lincoln's energy information journey. Then we'll dig deep into the energy and sustainability ERP system and what is it and why do you need it. And we'll end the slide deck and go into a discussion followed by some live question and answers from all the audience members. Real briefly, Energy Cap's purpose, why we exist, is we are an energy and sustainability ERP that helps clients easily manage their finite resources for a better and more sustainable world. So taking all the information as you see on the screen and making it easy to consume, reduce our carbon, and drive savings. So first of all, what is an energy information system? So energy information system is a single source of information that collects all your information in one place. So whether it's the actual readings, whether it's all the business rules you may have, some special deals, any kind of validation you have, all of those are very transparently copied and stored in this kind of a database. And that energy and sustainability ERP system then feeds into the financial ERP system for any further downstream billing, or it also can do accounts payable part of it to the upstream vendor providers. In addition to that, it also allows you to do better reporting and invoicing of any downstream customers. What are the 4 big challenges that most campuses and institutions that have district energy operations deal with? Well, the first one is that they have to deal with a variety of energy information sources, and we'll look at in more detail from the university's point of view at Nebraska what those were. Accounting, and Ben will probably shed light on this at a later time. Utility accounting is slightly different than regular accounting, and this applies for both upstream and downstream. Upstream meaning making sure that you pay your bills on time for the vendor bills that you're receiving, making sure that they're accurate. But then on downstream side, when you have to do any tenant billing or chargebacks, you want to make sure that you're sending accurate bill to them also. In addition to that, you may have to generate reports for various reasons, analyze energy information on a consistent and reliable basis. And then on top of that, if this was not enough to make jobs difficult for our teams, we also have to manage the sustainability initiatives that the organization set up for us. But we want to do all of this to make this a more sustainable world. A very quick overview of what University of Nebraska-Lincoln looks like. There's about 26,000 students, 14 million square feet in 190 buildings. There are 5 central utility plants in district energy form. City campus, East campus utility plant produce steam and chilled water and distribute the power. There are 2 thermal energy storage tanks for chilled water, 1 on city campus, 1 on East campus, 8 and 3 million gallon tanks. There is also an innovation campus that is served by a campus renewable energy system that exchanges heat with city effluent. So that's the very high level overview of the University of Nebraska-Lincoln's infrastructure. From a specific energy information point of view, we have about 600 meters that we would get from that we have on our campus that are vendor meters, and each of these results in 400 plus bills per month. Now, the reason the number is smaller in terms of number of bills is because some of them do bi-monthly or once a quarter billing. From the internal bills point of view, meaning these are the bills that the university is fully responsible for, there are about 700 plus internal meters for steam, chilled water, and electricity. And for those meters, there's bills generated per month for internal customers. So before 2016, there were 3 different sources of data for energy information. There were meters that were read manually and recorded in a spreadsheet, and I'll show you a screenshot of that spreadsheet in just a little bit. We had vendor bills that were getting sent to us by mail that used to be entered into an Access database, which was actually designed by a student. Student left a long time ago, but the Access database existed, and there were a lot of issues with that Access database, but we had to continue finding workarounds to make it work because the student was long gone and could not be changed. And then we also had a building automation system that was collecting hourly data that used to be rolled up into monthly number, exported to spreadsheets, and so on and so forth. On top of these 3 different sources of data, there were also situations where a single meter would be serving multiple buildings, so we would have to come up with any splits or deducts. Then there were special deals that existed because of administration agreements that were really not very well documented in a system of record, but were more institutional knowledge that would pass down from one person to another. And that presented a lot of challenges many times. Every single thing that we did from reporting point of view was all ad hoc. So anybody asks a question, it used to take a little while to get that going, and I think Kirk's going to talk a little bit about that in the near future. This was that color-coded spreadsheet. I'm sure Kirk and Ben are thinking of the spreadsheet way back in the day, and this used to give us PTSD for using it. And it was called the color-coded multicolored spreadsheet because, as you can see, it had many colors in identifying various commodities, and managing this was just a really big problem. The workflow pre-2016, on the top side you see is the submeters for the district energy system. On the bottom is the vendor meters that we would get either for the energy provided to the central utility plants or the energy that flows directly into the periphery of the building that did not get district energy provided to them. And so from top, you would collect the data either through the building automation system or manually, put it into a metering database, validate every single line item, add those special deals, do a mail merge to send invoices to the customer. If the customer found any issues, we would have to reconcile them and update the information before it gets sent to the SAP system, which was the system of record. Same thing on the bottom left to right. We have vendor bills that came in with to us in a paper format. Somebody would sit down and punch that numbers into the vendor database. This was that Access database. Somebody had to go through manual validation, add those special deals, and do the same mail merge and customer reconciliation. When a report was asked from senior administration or for regulatory requirements, we would have to go to 5 or 6 different sources to make sure that the report was getting created in an accurate form. The challenge was that every time we created this report, there was a high level of uncertainty whether we got all the information we need, did we miss something. And for that, sometimes the future year reports would actually rely on past year report rather than going back to the source because of that lack of confidence. In fact, we had one of these folders that basically said, never change this. Kirk, do you want to maybe talk about this real quick?
This was about 5 years into the process that was described here, and my director was so frustrated that we couldn't say for sure that this was the exact number or where this one came from. This was all being done in a large spreadsheet, and we spent a very painful 2 weeks side by side reviewing every number in the spreadsheet, and finally he basically agreed with us and kind of threw up his hands, said, okay, this is the best we have, so this is what we're going to work with, and do not ever change this spreadsheet or any of the underlying data again. I don't care how wrong you find something is, never change it, because this is the gospel from here forward.
Right. Thank you, Kirk. Yeah, it just goes to explain how this can get complex very quickly, and the confidence can just wane very fast. Thank you, Kirk. So this is where the energy information system, energy ERP, comes into play. This is where the ideal energy information data source data flow would be is, doesn't matter how many data sources you have, whether you have manual readings, automated reading, vendor bills, and if you can automate those vendor bills, that's even better. And then all the validation would happen in the same database. All the special deals and deducts and splits would be part of the utility database. So that's all the information coming in. And then a single source of information going out to your financial accounting system, SAP in UNL's case, or any reporting and invoicing is done from that single source of information. So that's where this energy sustainability ERP comes in, and the choice in this particular case was University of Nebraska was EnergyCap. So just going back to the previous introductory slide, where what were the challenges? It's managing variety of information sources, managing complex utility billing accounting, both upstream and downstream, reporting and analyzing the information consistently and reliably, and managing our sustainability initiatives. So the first thing was disparate sources of information. So this is a screenshot of how Nebraska's information became a single source of information. So if you see here, there are 2 meters, KIME ELE02 and KIME NAT01. Those are electrical and natural gas meters that are actually provided by the local utility. They get sent to the university in a paper format, and that is fully automated to bring it into the application. But at the same time, there is also district energy meters that are residing in the same database along with the vendor provided meters. So now you have a single view of all the information that you want to see in one place rather than having to go to multiple data sources. From an accounting point of view, and Ben will speak more to this in a little bit, is that all the information that the accounting team needs, all the detailed line items were captured from the vendor bill. It had a very robust accounting workflow, so you could bring in the bill as not approved, and somebody can go through the approval process. If there was an issue, you can void the bill or keep it as not void. If you still found some issues, you could keep it not getting exported to the SAP system. So there was so many workflow steps built in that allowed you to make sure you have a high level of confidence in what information got pushed to the accounting system that then results in a bill for the customer. It also added automated audits. So prior to the system implementation, the accounting staff was required to audit every single line item in every single bill because they didn't want to send any incorrect information to the financial accounting system. In this particular case now, instead of having to go through every single item, the system identifies any outliers using some linear regression algorithms that basically says, hey, this, instead of looking at all 300 bills, maybe you look at only 20. And those 20 have some kind of a flag that gets raised, an audit flag. So that's just an example of one of those. Then the third problem was robust reporting. So the system allowed the team to do a lot of flexible reporting. So you could add filters as seen on the screen. You can slice and dice the data the way you want it. And once you have the data in the format you want, you can then do an export. So if it is something that is going to an executive team, maybe you export it to a PDF or Word format. If it's going for further analysis to any other team, then you can also export it in an Excel format for further analysis. Now, you don't even have to download the PDF or Excel on your file, on your desktop, and then open your email client and then attach that file. You can actually email the report directly from the application itself. If you like the filters that you have created for yourself, you can save that report. You can create automatic distributions on a monthly basis. I want to send my senior leaders whatever EOI is, for example, on a regular basis. So you don't have to even come to this report and click on the email button, add the email addresses. Once you set up the distribution, it automatically takes care of sending it on a whatever periodic basis that you choose. The last part was managing our sustainability initiatives. Just like many institutions of higher education, Nebraska is also trying to manage the carbon dioxide emissions and greenhouse gas emissions. So this system also allows you to take your energy information, again, single data entry point, and it converts information in many different formats. And the greenhouse gases is one of those formats. You could take the standard E-grid factors that are available through EPA, or you can define your own custom GHG factors. So those were all the advantages that you get from a energy and sustainability ERP system that Nebraska has benefited from. So this concludes the slide deck portion of it. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen here real quick. And now you should be able to see our faces a little bit larger. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and maybe point at you, Kirk, first. So we saw a bunch of workflows that Nebraska had prior to 2016, and we covered it at a very high level in the last few minutes. Is there anything else that I may have missed that you want to add some commentary to the challenges you and your team face particularly?
Well, the biggest problem was just the different silos, the different places where data was located. And so anytime we would get a request, the first thing to do actually was to sit down and say, well, where are all the different sources that I might draw from here, I might draw from there, maybe I need to put them together, maybe I need to synchronize 2 or 3 different sources. Sometimes I actually was back in Ben's paper files copying numbers by hand out of the old bills to put into a spreadsheet. And so it was just the time spent on that. I would say oftentimes ad hoc reports took 2 to 4 days per month. So that's why sometimes we would, let's just add to last year's report rather than starting over again. We might find something in the historical data that we didn't want to know about. And so that was the never change this folder of data. The end result of everything was we had a very low confidence in the data that we were reporting. We gave the best we could, and that's not a very good feeling when you're sitting across the table from the Vice Chancellor.
That's very true. Yeah, absolutely. Ben, from an accounting point of view, anything that I missed on the pre-2016, how data would flow for energy accounting purposes?
Well, I think there's a number of things there. Just being able to review the bills that we had. We were using a variety of spreadsheets in order to do that, but you weren't really focusing your time on what would be the important thing to look at. It was just you were searching through the entire haystack trying to just find one bit of information. And so, a lot of times you wouldn't find it. Being able to process bills, it makes it so much more efficient for us now than having a variety of sources that we have to go to. There's no more need to input information into that manual database that we had before, that Access database, which sometimes didn't even contain all the information that maybe we needed to get out of it. But that's what we had tracked historically, so that's what we continue to track. So, and then the other thing is just the sources of data that we had weren't necessarily always the same sources of data that Kirk had. So sometimes you get questions for reports from a financial standpoint. Sometimes you get requests for reports from an energy usage standpoint. So a lot of times Kirk and I would be talking to each other saying, okay, do you have the same thing I have? Because we weren't necessarily pulling from the same data sources. So,
yeah. That's very fair. In fact, it just came to my mind, the Access database for vendor bills was so limited and fixed that, if I recall, Kirk wanted to add another field that he wanted to capture from the electrical bills we were getting, and there was no way to adjust the system because the student who developed it was long gone. Mm-hmm. And I don't even recall what was the in-between solution. Maybe another spreadsheet was added to track that information that we could not add to the bill.
Yep.
Yeah, well, that's great. So we know the pain, and I was right there with you all. And I even remember one time when some information was actually published in the university newspaper that did not jive with the previous article that the university newspaper had published 2 years prior to that, and that became a bit of a egg in our face. Any comments on that particular memory, or you're trying to suppress it? No, we don't want to talk about it.
Well, yeah, I don't want to talk about it, but yeah, it's one of those things that you know, it brought to the forefront our inconsistency in data and the variety of data that was in a variety of locations. So anytime a vice chancellor asks you a simple question like, how much natural gas do we use on campus? And you have to say, well, give us a couple weeks and we might be able to get back to you on that. And can we just tell you for 1 or 2 years, not for 10?
Yeah.
I think one of the big things was we were spending so much time making excuses or explanations that we couldn't focus on just getting the best data available.
Right.
Yep.
And the sad part is, you mentioned earlier, Kirk, during your introduction, that you've achieved what 40% energy reduction over the last 2 decades at the university. You had such a great story, but you didn't have the data to back that story. And every time you tried telling that story with incorrect or less confident data, it always became that tussle of, wait, we have a great program, but we're not able to share that story very well.
True.
That's great. So you had this challenge. We identified the challenge that we had, and we started thinking about maybe finding a single solution that can solve the challenges, and ended up with the solution we did. Can you talk about how the implementation phase between 2016, 2017 went? Maybe Ben, I'll come to you first this time on how the implementation process went down on the Nebraska campus.
Sure, certainly. I've been through quite a few implementations at the university prior to this one, so I had a little bit of experience, but this one was by far, I think, the smoothest that we had to go through. Obviously we had data from a variety of different viewpoints and different places, but we were able to figure out a way to integrate all of those into the system moving forward. So we were able to bring in, some historical data as well as, pulling data from 16, 17 moving forward. So, whenever you're working with the implementation staff, obviously they need to understand that it's a combination of them understanding your business, and then at the same time, them being subject matter experts, and maybe telling you, kind of what some industry standards are, and being able to really integrate those. So to me, that's something that's really important too. They really need to understand what you do, in addition to understanding how the system works. And how that system can work for you. And then one of the things that was kind of a down in the weeds thing for me, at least, was the way that we were able to integrate into SAP. We were able to create, I believe, what's called a reformatter, or at least that's what we call it. So to take the data that we stored in our energy information system and be able to export that for doing our rebillings to customers across campus, or even to put out information in order to send to our accounts payable department to pay those invoices. Years ago, we would send them a stack of 400 bills every month and they would pay them. And now we're able to do an export of a file of invoices that need to be paid, that just need to be uploaded. They've already been approved and audited through our system. So.
Nice. That's great. Kirk, any thoughts on the implementation process from your point of view?
I think one of the biggest benefits was that it forced us to go through all of the information that was stored in about 7 or 8 different brains and combine it together, and we all had to sit down and talk and say, yeah, this is the way we do it. This is the way we understand it. These are the relationships between the meters, between the buildings, between the accounts. Talked about things like special deals, that who was going to pay certain areas, how was this meter split up, or were there 3 meters in one building and one of them was really the duplicate of the other 2? We had to dig all of that information out. I don't think it was really obvious in what your quick screenshots there, but one of the huge, powerful features of EnergyCap is their front page, where it just has a tree view of your entire campus, and then it breaks down to individual buildings, individual meters within buildings. One of the great things about that is that the accountants get their own view, because the accountants like to see it in terms of departments. The engineers tend to think more in terms of geographical or building types, that sort of thing. And so the automatic groupings are different for what the accountants see. They see the same information, but it's grouped differently. And so one of the most powerful features is the ability, I can go in and click on just a single meter, or the building that that meter belongs to, or the group of buildings, maybe the whole campus. And at each level, I can easily see the totals. I can see the monthly trends, that sort of thing. It did actually take us longer than I expected to implement, but we had a really good support. We had one person that was purely focusing on us, and then brought in several other experts, and the meetings were really well organized, and they led us through it and helped us to figure out those questions that we all thought we knew the answers to, but it turned out that Ben and I had different answers to the same question.
Of course, you had the correct answer.
I did.
Well, there were a few things now that I remember that we agreed what our answer was going to be going forward. There was, a conversion that we used where, there's a range of numbers from what I understand in the, I'm not an engineer, but there's a range of numbers that you could use for a steam to kBTU conversion. And I was using one number and Kirk was using a different number. So we were able to sit in the room and decide what the number is that we're going to use going forward. So, and then you have that standard built into your information system. So everyone is using that standard going forward.
Right. That's awesome. And just to clarify for the audience, even though you had two different views of the information, you still did only one data import. It wasn't that you had to import it for accounting separately and for energy management, or for that matter, even sustainability metrics in a different way. It's single data entry, but see it the way you want it.
Right. Yep.
Perfect. Anything else on the implementation phase? Okay.
I would say that we are continuing to change configuration and improve what we do. We're being very careful to never ruin what's already built into it, but we're continuing, even though most of the work of the implementation was done fairly straightforward way, and it's been that way for 5 or 6 years, but we're continuing to change some of the configurations to make it even more useful to our campus.
Nice. Perfect. So we've talked about the pre-2016, we've talked about the implementation phase. I'm sure your day-to-day lives, both of you have changed since you implemented the system. Would you both please expand on that, on how the workflows that you had pre-implementation versus post-implementation changed for the energy management side, for the energy accounting side? Kirk, you want to take this one first, maybe?
Yeah, I think the biggest time saver for me was that EnergyCap provided a library of standard reports, and I'm no longer the person who has to provide those standard reports. They go to a different group that pulls the data out and does any special formatting or special filtering, but they're just not looking to me for that anymore. So I tend more to get the special requests. I would guess that really averaged about a 0.1 to 0.2 FTE. That was time spent there. And oftentimes the request might just be a single number. I need to know what this value is. And in times past, I would have had to said, okay, let me get all the description. I'll get back to you in a couple of days. I have to go back to my data sources and develop that number for you. Now with that front end tree, generally, I can just click on 1 or 2 mouse clicks and say, here's your number, while I'm still on the phone with the requester, so that they can ask a few more questions. They can clarify, I can verify, yeah, this is weather normalized. Yes, this is only for this area. And so they have a lot more confidence, and I have more confidence that I'm giving them what they want.
Right.
If somebody wants a transcript of 2 years worth of energy data, it takes me about 6 mouse clicks, and I just put it into an email and it's done. So that, you know, the design engineers, it's very easy to take care of them. I think the biggest thing is that the administration has a lot higher confidence now that we know what we're talking about and that we're really trying to be as helpful as we possibly can.
Yeah, that's very powerful. Ben, how about you? How has your workflows in your department improved?
Well, it improved a lot for facilities and for our business office when we were there. You know, previously, we have a real tight time constraint of when we get bills in, when we have to process information and then get that turned around. So, you know, that's one of those things that's right at the first of the month, like a lot of other activities are for our business office. So we were able to greatly reduce that through a combination of, you know, we didn't have that manual database entry that we were doing before. We had a scanning system for scanning those invoices and getting them into Energy Cap. The audits and bills, the audits for those bills and flags that came out of there were also very helpful too, because in the past, you know, I pull up the spreadsheet from last month, or I pull up the spreadsheet from last year for the same month, and then, you know, try and compare everything, you know, maybe do a VLOOKUP or something like that to try and then just do what one of my old partners in my CDA firm said was a 2-finger flyby. You have that sheet of paper and you're just going down trying to find anything that's an outlier. Now, you know, that system pulls out those outliers for you. And it depends on the parameters that you put into it. So, you know, if you tell it that you want a 5% variance for every bill, you can pull up every 5% variance. You may not want to do that because, you know, with weather and those sorts of things, that can be quite a few bills. But, you know, it can help you look for the things that are truly the value added things. You know, the other thing is you can say, hey, I don't want to look at any bills under $50 because I don't care about bills under $50. I mean, I care, but I don't care as much as I care about the $500 bills. So obviously getting away from that manual entry too reduces a lot of errors that take place. You know, manual entry into a database, the spreadsheets that we were looking at before, you know, Kirk's information that flows into the energy information system that then we pull out to use. There's no issue with, you know, transpose number or an extra zero or anything like that. So, and then the other thing is that since we've implemented this, we were able to redesign our invoices. We were able to post them online for our customers instead of having to send out paper copies or PDFs to email out to individuals. They can go online and pull up their bills for the current month and for historically. And then the other thing is we were able to provide additional information to them on those bills. We were able to provide, you know, their last 24 months of usage for that specific commodity. So it does two things. It informs them directly what their energy usage is for a specific building or meter that they're being charged for. And then the other thing is that it could turn around and reduce the amount of feedback that we get on, hey, this bill, I think it's higher than the one I had last year. Is it? Why is it? I mean, they could look and see that information there directly. So I was able to provide them more information. So
right. So it's not just one-to-one. You improved your workflow in providing the same product to your customers. You improved your workflow, and in addition, you're able to provide them even better value for what information is being shared with them.
Right. It reduced our time and it increased the amount of customer service that we're providing to our customers on campus.
That is excellent. So both of you have touched on this a little bit. So I'm going to kind of pivot a little. So we've talked about the we talked about the implementation, we've talked about the post. So over the last few years, I know that higher education budgets, and especially in facilities, has become tighter and tighter. And then last 2 years through COVID and the great resignation that we call it now, we also run into situations where we are having difficulty hiring talented individuals. So Kirk, you mentioned a bunch about how it used to take you multiple days to get reporting done or getting a quick answer and drop everything and take care of it because it came from the vice chancellor or some senior leadership. And then you've talked about how no manual data entry, automated identifying outliers through the audits, and also providing better information to your customers. It seems like the software has reduced your clerical, your day-to-day mundane activities and created opportunities for you to take your staff time, your own time, to do more value-added services for the university. Is that kind of true? And I think I created the title of this presentation as the energy information system that pays for itself. I know there is sometimes a very hard way to justify the cost of a new software license while you're busy continuing to do things in the way you have done. And maybe you didn't have this quantified in a very good way to say how much time you have spent, because that time easily gets absorbed into other value-added activities. How have you seen the process change for you? Kirk, you want to go first on this one?
Well, we are definitely down a couple of FTE in my group, and I would say that this particular area of concern is taking a smaller portion of the time that we have available. We're able to provide a better product, more confident results with fewer people. We didn't really track the individual time spent before, so it's hard to say, you know, exactly this many hours per year, but it isn't the painful process that it used to be,
Gotcha.
Even with a smaller staff.
Gotcha. And Ben, I know if I remember right, about 6-8 months ago, somebody told me outside of you and one more individual, the combined experience of the business office for facilities was a few weeks because of the transitions that the business office had seen. From that point of view, how has this software helped you? And another way to ask the question is, if this system didn't exist, how much more painful the job would be for both of you?
Right. Well, we've definitely had some turnover in our business center over the years, and so, you know, there were a lot of clerical items that were going on before for utilities, and you know, some other things that we were doing, you know, manual inputs and those sorts of things, processing paper bills, or, you know, emailing out to a bunch of customers on campus their bills. So we were able to reduce those manual activities that are going on. And, you know, when we had someone retire in our office, we were able to look at what we really needed someone to do, and you know, maybe be able to replace that with a higher level person that can help us in some other areas. In addition, like the audit information, the audit flags, you could take a person that was having to, you know, take more time to look through those at a more manual basis, but you still have to have a higher level person doing that. You can have that person focus on more value-added activities. If they are, you know, not having to build a report every month to review bills, but being able to use the reporting that they have in the system. I guess one other thing that I didn't even mention that I'm just thinking of now, one of the things that we also use the energy information system for is we also get reporting on what bills we don't have. You know, before, you know, you'd have to have a spreadsheet out there and tick off, hey, I received these 300-400 vendor bills. And, you know, now you can run a missing bill report out of the system, and it says, hey, these are the bills that you're missing. You know, that is also a time saver. So, you know, it's as things have changed, we're able to use our staff in different areas. We maybe necessarily haven't lost staff, but we've gained work. And a lot of times you gain that work without gaining staff. So, you need to figure out how to more optimally use the people that you have and put them in the best place to succeed, both for your organization and for them too.
Right. That's very true. In fact, I remember maybe it was 2014 or 2015, Tammy moved on to a different role, and everybody was panicking because Tammy knew every single cell in that spreadsheet, and now the panic was, well, who's going to do that special deal? Who's going to do the splits and deducts that she kind of knew like the back of her hand? So
right.
Yeah,
Exactly.
having a system that documents that in one place can relieve you of that succession planning challenge that you would typically have.
Well, and that's another thing. You talk about those special deals, and we have some buildings on campus where they only get charged for half of their utilities because of some pre-existing agreement. So if you asked Kirk to run a report on energy use in that building, he would tell you the whole energy use in that building. But if I get asked from a financial standpoint, how much does it cost for that building? Well, I'm just going to tell you how much we billed them for it. So, that's another area where, we're both working off the same set of data now. So.
Right. That's great. We are down to last 14 minutes. Maybe I'll take a quick pause here to see if we have any questions from the audience. That way we don't miss out on that opportunity.
Lalit, you have a ton of questions, and I just want to let people know that if we don't have time to get through all of the questions, that your question will be answered by the panel in an email to you. So, gentlemen, if you're ready, I'll start reading questions.
Sounds good.
Okay, first question. How many staff at Nebraska facilities were involved with the transition to EnergyCap?
I think there was a mix of staff. We did a pretty good job of making sure all the departments that would get touched by the implementation were involved at a very early stage. I would say at least 1 or 2 people from the energy team and 1 or 2 people from the accounting team were involved from the startup. And then University of Nebraska, and maybe Kirk, you can talk about this a little bit, has an analyst team that actually became the project management team for this. Kirk, you want to say anything about that?
There was one primary person who spent a lot of time. He was probably almost full-time on this project for several months, and he was the main contact with the EnergyCap implementation team. Most of those meetings were online. There were probably 4 or 5 on-site visits, but Mark did most of the actual implementation. We didn't want more than one person messing around in the system at once because they might cancel out each other's.
Yeah, they became the orchestra leader.
Most of the rest of us, it was, I would say there were another half a dozen people that you listed off there, and most of them probably contributed a couple hours a week as we had assignments that we had to complete each week for going through accomplishing tasks.
Right.
Yep, I remember that I had a person from my department that I kind of designated as our lead person for this implementation project from the accounting side of things. But any implementation, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. That's just kind of the general rule of thumb. And the other thing that's important, obviously, is getting leadership buy-in. And that's one thing that we did have at the university. And part of that leadership buy-in was, if you let us do this, we will be able to give you consistent, accurate, timely reporting. And we've been able to do that.
Nice.
That's more efficient.
Okay, thank you, gentlemen. My next question is directed at Kirk. Kirk, how much time do you estimate the new system has saved you in a typical year, and what opportunities has it opened in terms of being able to focus on higher level energy management?
It probably has saved me a typical year, I would say 3 to 4 weeks not at one time, but spread out through the year. And there would have been one or two of those would be very intense weeks when that's all I got done. I would say what the biggest benefit I have now, as I've kind of grown into some additional sustainability responsibilities and overseeing a larger version of our energy program, is it's very easy to pull up have we been doing better? Have we been doing worse? What's a quick what if? Well, those you have to still estimate, but it's not difficult to look at our data at any level and say, well, what if we did something different at the greenhouses? What are they actually using for the research greenhouses, and what are our opportunities there? And we can rather easily pick out which buildings have the highest energy use index, which ones we're spending the highest cost on, or the most BTUs. And those should be the targets for a lot of what we're working on.
And Kirk, to Billy's second part of the question there, what kind of value-added things you've done? Do you want to share with the group that RO system issue we had at that would have dumped a lot of water?
Well, sure. Yeah, this is we do have water as a commodity within our energy information system, as well as the traditional energy sources. And two different occasions, we have found a lab building where an automatic internal valve got stuck. Might be from a drain from an RO system or something like that. And these things don't discharge out onto the floor or the floor drain or anything like that. They're just piped directly to the drain system. And we would get a notification that we were dumping thousands of gallons a day straight down the sewer of clean, potable water that was being wasted. And it took us longer to find the problem than it did to find that we had a problem. We'd get the notification, and then it would take our field service people several days or several weeks sometimes to even find where the problem was, because it was so hidden in the depths of our mechanical systems. But without this sort of data collection, we would have never known to even go looking for anything.
Right.
Well, thank you very much for that answer. Our next question is, how does the tenant charge back work?
I don't think I quite caught that.
How does the tenant charge back work?
Yeah, how does the tenant charge back work?
So our chargebacks that we charge to our customers. So we've set up our meters so that we know what meter is supposed to bill to what customer, or what portion of what meter is supposed to bill to which customer. Their cost center and GL that we're supposed to bill them to. And so we can export that automatically out of our reformatter once the data is in the system, and then create a posting in our SAP system, our financial system. And then that same information is used to generate the invoice that then is placed out on our website for invoices for the customers. And then we're also able to integrate our posting document numbers from the financial system on that invoice also, so the department can easily match that up, reconcile it. So does that answer that question?
Yeah, and the other thing that the chargeback engine does is it allows you to capture those special deals and those handshake agreements in a very transparent manner, rather than having to write a script in the background to take a single charge and split it multiple ways, or reduce it to, I think, Ben, you gave an example of we only pay for 50% of your energy. So either through a dynamic variable or through a fixed variable, you can have that documented in the system. And then if the person who documented it left, the system still remembers that, and every month that you process those chargebacks, it will apply those same rules to the future billings also.
Right. Yep, definitely.
Thank you. Our next question is There are several energy software programs. How was EnergyCap chosen?
I'll stay out of this. You guys go ahead and answer.
Actually, you're probably the right person to answer because you were the lead in helping in that direction. This was years before you were working over there, obviously. We actually attempted to write our own all-inclusive billing energy management software. We'd had experience writing building automation systems and other stuff. We had some very skilled programmers on staff, and we had numerous meetings with our administration and the database experts there, and 10 months later, nothing at all was happening, and it was clear that nothing was going to happen. And so we contacted this EnergyCap company. We'd heard about them. I think they just happened to be in a timely spot in our email. And we said, hey, why don't you tell us what you can do? And they came out and showed us, and we investigated further then. We just felt like it was the right solution for us.
Yeah, I mean, we went through the RFP process like we do for any large purchase that we have at the university. So, we had, we collaborated together, talked about the energy needs that we had for a system and the accounting needs that we had for a system, so that we could, and the reporting needs, so that we could be all encompassing with that. Talked to several different vendors that had different products out there. And EnergyCap was the one that best met our needs. Had some, experience in higher education and the different type of chargebacks and things that a higher education institution works with that a for-profit company may not have as knowledge in. So, or a energy system that focuses on for-profits that have, multiple locations across the country or something like that. So, it really worked for what we were doing, and we've been very happy with it. So.
Okay, well, thank you. Our next question is, how is the utility bill entry automated into EnergyCap?
I will, kind of give my aspect from my side of the house, and then I don't know if Lalit can add anything to that. So it's a system that's called bill capture, and basically what we're able to do is scan. If we receive a paper invoice, we're able to scan that invoice and upload it, or if we receive a PDF invoice or some other format, we're also able to upload that. And then auto-magically it is able to, you do some work on the front end to map that bill and how it goes to the different fields that you want to see in the system. And so then, there's I believe it's OCR that reads that information, knows, what information needs to go in what location, and then automatically puts it in there. If then you get a regular email that says, hey, we've uploaded this many bills from your upload. There's a variance on this one, or the format's different. We need to figure it out. It's something I wasn't directly involved with, but I know it worked well, and there was quick feedback on any issue that you had, and we're able to get it resolved quickly. So, Lalit, I don't know if you can talk any more about that.
I think you covered it very well, so I'm going to leave it there.
Okay, we have time for one more quick question. Can you talk more specifically about how this program has helped UNL achieve sustainability goals?
So to start with, I think it helped us to clarify what those goals could reasonably be. Right now, over the last year and a half, we went through a large consensus building process on campus and laid out a number of goals. And it included things like recycling and that sort of stuff that doesn't really impact us, but it did have, and we realized that most of the dollars are really going to be in the building energy use area. And it had several goals for, example, just target BTUs per square foot. And we were able to say, well, here's exactly where we are. Here's where we've come from. Sustainability committee, this is the situation that we're in right now. Here's how we project we're going to be able to get there. Here's the impact of a year and a half of low use campus due to the COVID shutdowns. And we've actually seen our energy use come back up a little bit from the low in the middle of that when there was hardly anybody on campus. But it makes it very easy to look at where we are. We can weather normalize it, so we don't say, well, last year was a cold year. How was that? Did it impact? Well, we don't have to consider that. We just say, this is what we're looking for as a normalized solution. And here's our goals. And here are the buildings that are going to be the biggest challenges. This one, they already look good. We don't need to do anything with them, but that one over there is going to take a lot of work.
You know, something else that we didn't really touch on, but I know in some of the buildings, we've been able to put out some public dashboards there as you enter the building as to the energy intensity or energy usage of the building. So I think those are helpful in informing the campus as to what's going on in the individual buildings that they're in. And then one other thing I thought of just now, a few years ago in our, I'm losing the word, where the students live.
Residence halls.
Residence halls, that's the word I'm looking for. They were able to have a competition on energy reduction. And so those public dashboards were used for that information to show which building, which residence hall was achieving the best energy reduction. I think those are two, outward focused things that you can do when you have the data and have it readily available.
Let me say one more thing about those dashboards. They are embedded with live links onto the websites of our sustainability group, so that each month when new data is available, they automatically show the latest data. And in some cases, it's showing hourly data or yesterday's data. So they automatically update so that they're always reporting the latest information.
Okay. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time today in this wonderful webinar. I appreciate everything you've done, and I can tell by our attendants that they've stayed on with us. So thank you so very much. And to our attendees, as always, thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us. So until next time, be safe, stay healthy, and be kind to one another. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Billy.
Bye.